So this is the interview that I had with Larry Eder, who is the VP of Malco Theaters for the field project. Um, so the first question I asked is, how do you consider whether to make or buy a menu item such as a salad dressing or a fresh baked dessert? And he said, you have to decide on your demographics and the theme or impression you want to make on your guests. You set the standard and the quality requirements, and then you source the items you want. Selling high end salad dressing to an 8-year-old would not be the same as a business professional entertaining clients with expense accounts or individuals on a specific healthcare diet. So I think that's really important because obviously you wouldn't need to like impress an 8-year-old or someone that might not be as experienced. And so buying like sourcing a salad dressing or any type of ingredient or dish might be easier and a better financial decision than making it in-house. uh, but like he said, someone that maybe has the resources to know the difference and is willing to pay for a higher quality would prefer making it in-house, so that might be a better decision for the operation. The next question I asked him is, who is involved in make or buy decisions? He said, typically someone within the corporate organization is charged with the responsibility of purchasing, like the executive chef at a hotel or restaurant. So we've learned in multiple classes throughout my time that someone should always be in charge of those decisions because that person is trained specifically to make those decisions, and that's really important for them to know because they would know kind of how to look at, okay, who's our demographic and will they kind of notice the difference. And then the third question I asked him was, how, if at all, do you obtain your customers' input about a make or buy decision? And their answer was, in many cases, customers will respond through social media, Facebook, Yelp, Twitter, etc., on their likes and dislikes, mostly dislikes, he said. Survey cards can also offer input as well. Be careful, as sometimes customers will say one thing but want another. Theater industry surveys say guests like healthy options like salads, however, they won't ever buy a salad at a movie theater. Internal data and sales analysis will give you direct answers to customers' preferences. So I think that's important because obviously whatever your customers want is and like what they think about your service and your business and your products, that's kind of what's going to push the profit along. And so I think it's interesting that he said like people will say they want healthy options, but then like when you're going to the movie theater, you're not gonna buy a salad. Like you're gonna probably tend to buy, like I know at Malco, they have popcorn and like funnel cake fries and stuff like that, and people are like obviously gonna choose that because it's easier to eat, one, and two, it's kind of just goes along with your experience of a movie. You're thinking of popcorn, soda, candy instead of eating a salad. And so that's always important because I think it is important to have surveys, but also to look at your like profits and like what you're selling to and kind of use everything instead of just like what the customers are saying. Okay, the fourth question I asked are, what factors are most important when determining to which vendors you send requests for proposals? He said experience and references from current customers. So I guess that means the current customers have experience and references, and so they'll kind of have like an opinion on which vendors they prefer. And so if they prefer one vendor, obviously you would try and use that vendor. Okay. The fifth question I asked, how do you order food and beverage products? What works well? What challenges does your operation face? He said, in small companies and restaurants, it's usually the chef as the chief buyer. In larger companies, there's a procurement officer. Generally, the best person to order goods is the person using them. That person knows the specifications of what they want. The challenge is in the supply chain. Is the product you're ordering in stock? What are the turnover rates? How fast are you moving the products you're buying? So, I definitely have learned before that in a smaller operation, there's a designated person for that, and it's usually the chef because they're the ones using the products. And I think it's important that he said that the best person to order them is the one using them because they know what's coming in, how fast things are going out, how fast things are getting used up. Um, and I definitely agree with the supply chain challenge. Um, because in one of my classes we ran the Blue Room restaurant, and sometimes things would not be able to be on the menu because that like those things were ordered but couldn't be completed. Um Sorry, I'm like so sick. Anyways, the sixth question I asked is, can each department head order products separately, and who orders other items? So that each department would be like the cook, the dining room, and the bar. Those are different departments, I guess. And he said again, it depends on the company's structure. In some cases, the general manager orders all the food. Some cases, the chef orders the food, and then the bar manager orders liquor, beer, and wine. Um, I remember learning this semester, I don't know in which class it was, but sometimes the departments like have to, there's like one person that does everything, and then in some cases like each department has to order their own thing. I guess it depends on, like he said, it depends on the company's structure. Um, but yeah, I think it just depends on the company if each department head can order it or not. And then the second part to that sixth question is, if so, is there a dollar limit above which management approval is needed? He said for inventory items that are used daily, there should be a guide which would regulate spending power. If it's a capital expense, there's definitely a cap on what the local manager can spend without authorization from a supervisor. So probably like things they're having to order all the time, they wouldn't need like a regulation or a guide from, or like a check off from like their supervisor to order it, because obviously they're having to order it all the time. But I guess, yeah, if they're trying to order something that's out of the blue that's kind of pricey, they would need authorization. The seventh question I asked is, what process is used to obtain price quotations and to award purchase orders? And he said, it's best to get 3 bids on any item purchased. A spec sheet is created and then offered to any or all providers of that good. Not all bids are the same, since some vendors, specifically janitor supply companies, can dilute their cleaning solutions with water and lower their price, but they deliver inferior products. So I think that's important. He said it's good to get 3 bids, I guess, because you would kind of know the price range and the quality range between those 3 vendors. And then I think it's interesting, he said that I guess he's had experience with that, janitor supply companies diluting their stuff. I think that's important to know and to be able to notice with experience the quality of the product when you get it. The eighth question I asked was, who or what position receives products and what procedures are used to receive them. And he said larger hotels have a purchasing department and the purchaser receives the products. In smaller restaurants, the chef or manager receives the product and inspects it for freshness and accuracy. This has to be determined by the management. So it's different for different size operations. Larger would probably have a purchaser and a purchasing department. We've learned that in this class. And then in smaller restaurants, they probably don't have the money to pay for multiple different staff positions. So the purchaser would be like the chef. And that goes back to another question he answered, is like the person using them would be purchasing them, and because that's the best person to know what they need. Okay. The ninth question I asked him are, what are some of the things you do to help maintain a good relationship with your restaurant or food service vendors? And he said, regular meetings and conversation, respect the vendors, treat them as you would like to be treated. So I think that's important to always have like an open line of communication going with your vendors, especially if they're vendors that you're wanting to use all the time. And then respect, obviously, in the hospitality industry is very important to keep that networking open and to have like for no one to have a bad taste in their mouth of your company and your business and your employees. And just making sure, I think something to add is making sure that all of your employees also have the values to respect the vendors that they're dealing with. Okay, number 10. What are some things that vendors do that make you less interested in buying from them? He said, too much propaganda and BS. All any buyer wants is fair pricing and quality that equals what the manufacturer reports. He said he doesn't like when they lie to him and oversell the product, and he likes when the vendors stand behind the product. So obviously if they're like overselling what they're saying or overselling their product and kind of overhyping it and saying that it does all these amazing things and it's so good and it's coming from this specific thing, but then it's actually not that great of quality, obviously that would be annoying. um, so I think that's important that he says. And he said that any buyer wants fair pricing and quality, that's equaling what the manufacturer reports and equaling the quality. So I think that's important too. Okay, the 11th question I asked him is who approves delivery invoices for payment? He said the manager. I guess that would be the person that's approving them. He kind of is like in the know of all the departments and all of the things that need to be delivered and things that were ordered, so that makes sense. The 12th question is what are your suggestions for the most effective procedures to use when delivery invoices or vendor statements are processed for payment? He said, the manager approves delivery and verifies accuracy, sends to payables department for payment, and then the payables department verifies the inventory received and enters the inventory for balances. And I know that we have learned in this class that there can also be like a purchasing person that, or like a delivering person, no, a receiving person that is in charge of that. So they could also probably like be in charge of receiving the delivery and then it would go to the manager. But yeah. Okay, that's my field project. Thank you.